very much impressed by the energy that this place has. And Bulgaria is another place with a lot of energy when it comes, when it comes also to the technology sector and startups. So we believe that today's opportunity is the first one of a series of such opportunities we want to create to encourage that energy to grow further and for collaboration between Japan and Bulgaria in the tech space. So today's event will cover as much perspectives initially as possible. After these few words that I will say will be welcomed firstly by the ambassador, who's very kindly joined us. Secondly, we will have also Pavlina Yanakieva, who will introduce the very interesting perspective of Bulgarian and Central East European startups going to Silicon Valley. We will then have a panel of VCs who will be talking both remotely and here on location about how Bulgarian, Central East European and Japanese investors regard each other's markets and what the opportunities are. And then we will have presentations on both the legal and regulatory aspects of such cross-border investment and business, and also the perspective finally of NTT Data, which is a large Japanese tech operating in Southeastern Europe. And then we'll have the opportunity to network here on location, and hopefully you will all be networking as well in the future, both online and offline around these topics. Finally, this is, as I say, only the first such event. So we very much hope to make this a series of different events and different ways in which we want to encourage this type of collaboration. So please do bear with us on the technical side. You already had to, but do also send us your comments through your registration links and contact us. Do let us know any thoughts and any ideas you may have on what will work and how to encourage collaboration between Bulgarian, Japanese, and other related tech businesses and founders. So with that being said, Tanashinde kudasai, and over to the ambassador.
Thank you. Mr. Shoilev, dear organizers and hosts of today's event, dear speakers and participants, from what I understand, we have participants from 3 continents today. And of course, dear guests, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to join you today. It is really a pleasure and an honor to open today's event, which is dedicated to the cross-border tech and venture capital between Europe and Japan. And I would like to, and I'll try to showcase Bulgaria's position and potential within this framework. Again, I would like to congratulate the organizers, the new Balkans Law Office, and their Japanese partners for this very timely and important initiative. Why timely? We are in Japan, and I believe many of you associate our country, Bulgaria, with yogurt, with roses. These are all very, very positive images. And I, as an ambassador of Bulgaria in this beautiful country, I have always been very grateful to have my country associated with such positive images. Bulgaria, yes, indeed, is the country of yogurt. It is the country of roses. But beyond that, today, Bulgaria is a modern country with a very vibrant economy with global impact. I know that my time is, as the Japanese say, kagirete imasu. My time is short, so I would like to raise 4 points which more or less showcase why Bulgaria is important today and why Japanese businesses should look deeper into business opportunities in Bulgaria and with Bulgaria. My first point is the IT and the startup ecosystem. Bulgaria, many of you most probably know, ranks third in the world in number of IT specialists per capita. For the past 10 years, IT and BPO has been the fastest growing sector in Bulgaria with an average annual growth of staggering 19%. Bulgaria is first in Eastern Europe where to set up operations for IT services and support, contact centers and back office support. And second, for data science in Eastern Europe. You probably are not aware, but let me mention that there are more than 1,400 active startups currently in Bulgaria. And they are, of course, contributing to the very dynamic tech landscape. There is a very robust funding program in Bulgaria vis-a-vis the IT and innovation startups, which amount to almost 1 billion euro investments for 2019-2023. And in that sense, Bulgaria is leading in Central and Eastern Europe in terms of investment for startups. And out of those 1,400 startups, 490 are funded. So you see the big proportion of funds going into the ecosystem. Again, Bulgaria is first in Central and Eastern Europe in terms of startup density per capita. One other feature of Bulgaria's innovative ecosystem is the, of course, the research institutions, but it's also the industry associations that play very, very important role in developing the ecosystem. And I would like to mention IBEST, the Association for Innovation, Business Excellence, Services and Technology, BESCO, the Bulgarian Entrepreneurial Association, and the AI Cluster Bulgaria. Bulgaria, of course, participates in Horizon Europe and the European Innovation Council, securing funding for R&D and facilitating cross-border cooperation in emerging technologies. Bulgaria is also a part of several digital innovation hubs. A growing number of Japanese companies have already recognized the advantages of Bulgaria in this area and are setting up their R&D centers and their offices in my country. And here I would like to express my high appreciation to NTT Data for having NTT Data Business Solutions in two places in Bulgaria, in Sofia and Varna. And I would like to encourage NTT Data to set up their office in Bulgaria. My second point is the talent pool. You are probably aware that Bulgarian students occupy top places in all world competitions in sciences, mathematics, physics, informatics. And Bulgaria has excellent traditions in IT and very experienced specialists in the field of computer science and software engineering. Actually, today, IT education is the most preferred major among Bulgarian students. My third point is Bulgaria is the home of the most advanced AI and big data institutes currently and in Central and East Europe. These are the INSIGHT, the Advanced Computer Science Hub, which is partnering with Google and Amazon, and GATE, Big Data for Smart Society, a cutting-edge research institute focusing on big data and artificial intelligence, driving innovation in healthcare, smart cities, and digital transformation. And I'm very happy to know that both research institutes have already robust cooperation and collaborations with Japanese partners. In the case of INSIGHT, this is RIKEN. INSIGHT and RIKEN concluded partnership in 2023. This partnership is ongoing, was ongoing in 2025, was expanded, and actually 2024, Insight announced a joint collaboration with Toyota in AI and robotics. And I'm going back to Gate Institute. In May 2024, Gate Institute concluded a memorandum for partnership with the Center for Computational Sciences at the University of Tsukuba. Again, Bulgaria is the home country of leading companies in the space and science engineering. And I would like here to mention Endurosat. Endurosat is a global unicorn, which is producing the smallest nano satellites. Endurosat satellites are participate in space missions. And I would like to mention here the Balkan constellations, which is part of the European Space Agency program, and another mission, Padre mission. It's a NASA mission to the sun. So Bulgaria has active contribution in global space exploration currently. And last but not least, Bulgaria is a regional leader in creative industry. This, I believe, is a very important point for Japan, being also an innovation hub and a creative industry global hub. Since 2017, one of the biggest game producing companies, Sega Sammy, Japanese companies, Sega Sammy, has a studio in Bulgaria, which started with 58 people. In 2024, they have 272 people working in their Bulgarian game producing office. And I should mention that for those of you who like to play games and those of you who are familiar, the Total War Pharaoh game of Sega Sammy is 100% produced in Bulgaria. My last point is Bulgaria is an extremely Japan-friendly country. Bulgaria has the biggest number of Japanese language students per capita in Europe. And I believe this is a very important asset for Japanese companies which would like to set up offices and operations in Bulgaria. Last year, Bulgaria and Japan celebrated 115 years since their first official contacts. And Japan is a partner of strategic importance for Bulgaria. IT and innovation are one of the areas where we would like to see deeper and more expanded cooperation. I would like to mention that former Minister of METI, Mr. Nishimura, visited Bulgaria in 2023 and concluded a joint statement with the Bulgarian Minister of Economy, which is on digital and innovation. And I would like to also mention JETRO's mission to Bulgaria in October 2024, which again focused on opportunities for collaborations with Bulgaria in the IT innovation startup areas. I would like to conclude here by referring to a recent comment of the chairman of Keidanren, Mr. Tokura, who pointed out that today Bulgaria attracts the attention of Japan and the world by its significant achievements in the IT sector and is already referred to as the Silicon Valley of the Balkans. So again, Bulgaria is an excellent place to live in and to work in. And I would like to invite each and every one of you to visit Bulgaria and find new business opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. This was so much. This was very informative and truly interesting to have as a introductory talk. So thank you very much for this. And without further ado, I would like to do two things. Firstly, invite those of you who are over there, if you wish, to take up some of the very nice bar stool type seats that we have here, if you like, or otherwise come on this side. And if you don't, then feel feel comfortable to use the sofas. And then secondly, I would like to turn over to Pavlina, who will be joining us online. Pavlina Yanakieva is effectively an ambassador for Bulgaria in Silicon Valley. I hope that that is not an undiplomatic thing to say to anyone. With that, over to Pavlina. I hope we will be able to hear her both here and online.
Pavlina, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Ambassador. I think I'm live now and everybody can hear me. Just confirming, should I be sharing my presentation or will somebody? Oh, I think there it is. Great.
Yes, I think your presentation will be shown. And can everyone here in Shibuya in person hear well from the speaker, or shall we turn up the volume a little bit? We should turn up the volume. I will. Pavlina,
yes.
Please carry on.
Great. Thanks again, Carmen. Hello, everybody. I am tuning in from Silicon Valley. It's an extreme honor to be here today with all of you virtually. Unfortunately, hopefully at the second edition, I will be able to join in person. But it's a great honor to come here and share from my personal story and the story of how we were able to bridge the gap between the Bulgarian startup ecosystem and Silicon Valley, which is a story that started out 6 years ago. I apologize for the background noise of my dog. Okay, we can move on to the next slide. Brief introduction about me. I'm Pavlina. I'm one of the co-founders of what started out as Bulgarian Innovation Hub. I'm Bulgarian native who has been living for the last 30 years in Silicon Valley. As I mentioned, bridging the gap between the technology innovation ecosystem here and Bulgaria. My background is in strategic partnerships, business development, and I am very excited to have been able to share my experience with you. What you see on the screen, so today this presentation revolves around a business case that I'd like to share with you. It's the story about Bulgarian Innovation Hub, an early stage accelerator that recently pivoted towards more Eastern Europe focus. But the story here is on this first slide that when we first founded BIH back in 2019, it was 4 friends, Vasil Terziev, who is the current mayor of Sofia now. I believe Carmen, you and Vasil are quite acquainted. You went to school together, if I'm not mistaken. Bogomil Balkansky, who's the gentleman who's on the first picture. He's a partner at Sequoia Ventures here in Silicon Valley. Ivan Dimov and myself. We are the original founders who came up with the idea that through personal experiences, we shared common a passion for helping Bulgarian founders get their footing into the US. Some of us encountered the problems that we have been solving for the last 6 years, either as investors or entrepreneurs ourselves. And we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So what started out as a dream, I'm proud to say 6 years later, we we're able to expand our footprint, expanding our board. I'm very excited to share that actually one of our board members, Rika Nakazawa, who is a Japanese native, she actually was able to join the call, and I will let her share some insights about about the impact of future unicorns, and to draw comparison between the ecosystems in Europe and Japan, obviously. So the problem that we witnessed early on, we can move on. Sorry, I'll just wave my hand for more seamless transition. So our organization, and again, this is meant to be an example of how we turn a dream into a reality. And 6 years later, we are providing, we build a highway, as Vasily used to say, between Europe and Silicon Valley, which can be replicated and leveraged by Japanese entrepreneurs, of course, with the cultural context in mind. So originally, we started out with the idea to accelerate growth for Bulgarian startup and high potential Central Eastern European startups who were aiming at the US market, and at the same time to promote the region as a technology innovation hub among the US investors. The reason why we decided to do that is because we deeply believed in the potential of of the entrepreneurs in Eastern Europe. We've witnessed and we worked with many of them, and we truly believe that with a little bit of help and resources, these founders could potentially become global leaders. Through our efforts, we were able in short period of time to provide access to global network of mentors, partners from top venture funds here in Silicon Valley, including Sequoia, Greylock, USDC, excuse me, and others, and provide subsequent funding to our founders. Quickly, I'll touch base, next slide please, on the problem that we were ought to solve, which is a problem that it's a challenge that a lot of cultures throughout Europe and Asia actually face, and that is the fact that there is a huge talent pool of great talent that it's hard to find to access funding. It used to be much harder, I should say. And the ambassador very broadly outlined the benefits of the current ecosystem, for which I'm grateful. So I don't have to present background information, but the problem that we aimed to solve was the fact that these founders had very limited access initially to funding, know-how, and cultural context when entering the US market. And the solution, next slide, please. The solution that we assembled, so to speak, was the so-called bridge between Silicon Valley. Why Silicon Valley? Because half of the team was already based here in Silicon Valley. So my partner, Bogumil Balkansky, who is at Sequoia, and myself were both based in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. The other half of the team was in Bulgaria. And so we decided to leverage our network, know-how, cultural context, and try to activate more ambassadors and diaspora members who would be willing to share network and resources with our founders. And actually, we were not prepared to what happened. So the way we managed to build that bridge, next slide, was actually we launched an accelerator program that was focused around providing go-to-market, a very specific business entrepreneurial education focused around the fundamentals of go-to-market strategy that every entrepreneur who is looking to scale their business overseas, particularly into the US, should be aware. And so companies that we engage typically are early stage startups, in a very early stage, like seed, pre-seed, in general, pre-Series A, technology product companies, innovating in a variety of industries. And what the value that companies that engage with us extract is number one, access to our global network of mentors, advisors, investors, because in most cases, these founders, as I mentioned earlier, even though they might have obtained initial funding from, let's say, the Bulgarian or Romanian, the regional funds, as we all know, startups are a risky endeavor, and capital is very much needed to scale the operations. So the value again was the network, potentially introductions to strategic partners, and potentially first customers for those companies. The challenges that here I see, I would kind of softly draw a comparison, but I would save it for my board chair, Rika Nakazawa, at the end of this presentation to share her perspective of, and obviously drawing the alignment between the Bulgarian and Japanese culture much better than I would, that I could do it. But again, the overall challenge that we faced to solve was the fact that most European countries and Asian cultures have a risk-averse culture, in contrast to the American culture that is very much pursuing opportunities and risk. Also, we were trying to tackle the lack of go-to-market expertise, the limited access to the global networks, and investor readiness. And through the next slide, please. We can skip this one because I already spoke about who we target. Here you can see, and this presentation will be available for participants and anyone who's interested to learn more. Again, this is meant to be not a self-promotion, but it's meant to present a case of how we build the successful bridge. And then, I'll be happy to discuss potential partnerships with any of you. So this just gives an example of the curriculum that we put together, mentors like Rika, Bogomil, and others who are practitioners, people who have built successful and scaled successfully or ventures, participate as mentors and willingly share their expertise, provide one-on-one mentoring and advising to these founders. Next, please. Just quickly to put things into perspective, in the 6 years of our existence, this year is going to be we're turning 6 years old. And we have added for that short period of time 61 companies to our portfolio. In April, we're going to welcome the 10th cohort of the accelerator, and where we're going to welcome another 12 to 15 companies. By now, a record of our portfolio companies includes 6 successful exits to global companies, more than 2,000 jobs created in Bulgaria and the local markets. Of course, some of those jobs are in the US, and our portfolio companies were able to raise a year after joining the network of Future Unicorn / Bulgarian Innovation Hub in less than a year. So 200 million raised post-program. These are statistics that we gather independently from our participants, because for us it's really important to measure impact. That's the main reason why we do it. Next, please. Here you can see some of the mentors, but the caliber, as I mentioned, the common denominator for people that join our network of mentors are primarily experienced executives, serial entrepreneurs, investors, people with relevant experience, but also with who share our mutual passion to support the efforts of high potential entrepreneurs. Next. We're getting closer. You can skip this one and get to, so here you can see some of the logos. Those of you who are Bulgarian definitely most likely recognize the ambassador mentioned Endurosat, Dronamics. They were part of our first cohorts. Next two slides, please. Here are the rest of them. I hope some of you will join as ecosystem partners to unify our efforts and keep elevating the Bulgarian and Eastern European companies, and why not Japanese in the future. And here I'm getting to the essence of, in the next slide, of where I wanted to, how I'd like to conclude this presentation. Next slide, please. Is by providing, if I may, best practices for Japanese entrepreneurs and founders. I'm now going to get into statistics of comparing Bulgarian versus Japanese startup ecosystem. My goal here with this presentation was to illustrate a successful example of how the diaspora-driven initiative was able to successfully build that bridge between the two ecosystems, and how within short time we were able to scale that effort and build out the network. So my advice will be to start building a global network early on, develop a clear go-to-market strategy for which obviously you need to lean into people with experience in the markets that you're aiming. If that's the US market, connect with people from that region. Also target early stage, target funds that are appropriate to your growth stage. Again, here I'm addressing if there are any Japanese founders. Also seek potentially government support. The ambassador mentioned the role of government in providing funding to some of the venture funds in Bulgaria, and also directly to companies. Shift to a pay it forward culture. I mean, culture is at the center of everything that we do, and it's much easier said than done. But I'm really proud to share with you that we have been able to create a dent, even a small dent, if it is, in the universe of not just Bulgaria, but our collective Eastern European community, because the evidence is there. More and more companies or alumni come back as mentors. They pay it forward by contributing financially to the program. They join as mentors, as I mentioned, or they get engaged in some form and shape with our initiative and others. And always having a local partner, a local friend to hold your hand on this journey helps. That's why, as we'll see on the next slide, almost done here. Again, I'm referencing, emphasizing the key to local partnerships. So get in touch with accelerators or soft landing programs such as Future Unicorns, where you can gain immediate access to top-notch venture networks, either being in US, in Europe, etc. Again, you can leverage our network. Either you're someone who is who is building a startup, or innovating in corporate. Again, leverage mentorships and strategic partnerships. Embracing the growth mindset. I mean, Japanese culture is one of innovation, and it's a leading culture in technology and innovation. And cultivating a growth mindset, it's not too far out on that spectrum. Risk averse and versus risk taking. I spoke about that. it's a difficult one to embrace. I myself, even though I've lived in Silicon Valley more than I've lived in Bulgaria, to this day, I have moments when facing important decisions, I have to think twice. But it's been incredible experience being immersed here in Silicon Valley and truly, witnessing the wonders of when one is able to, free its mind from the fear of failing. I know it's easier said than done. And last, try to lean in on global networks through government, through corporate, through expats that in the markets that you're targeting. And that being said, I will hand it off. The rest of the presentation, you can see testimonials from some of the entrepreneurs who went through the program, but I'd rather hand off the microphone to my board chair, Rika, and if she can unmute herself. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our success, and I'm really looking forward to collaborating with all of you and come and potentially doing an event together maybe next time around. Thank you. And I can be you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Here is our contact. Thank you. Rika, are you there? I think she is, but maybe she's not able to unmute herself. Again, the idea was to invite one of our board members to share, but I think as a participant, she's not able to speak up. Okay.
Yes, we don't see her presence inside the room. Let me just double check real quick.
I believe her handle is in Japanese. I saw it earlier. Yeah, she's saying she can join the audio. Well, that's unfortunate because it would have been a great opportunity. But again, this was just a last minute arrangement. So thank you very much. Any questions that I might that anyone has, I'll be happy to answer. If not, feel free to reach out to me via email or, like I said, LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to spend some time and share our lessons learned and best practices. That's the only way we're all going to be successful, by supporting each other and sharing knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pavlina. If Rika is still able to join now, she may be able to be in touch with you and then with Michael, who will put her through, and we would love to hear from her if she can.
Okay. Is it okay to share the link on the Zoom with her?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So Rika, you
in
are... Yes.
In the meantime, I wonder whether I could invite our panel of VCs to come forward and join us in this part of the room, which is where, given the unusual shape of the room, we have targeted the camera towards these seats. So those of you who are going to be on the panel, please do join us. And Bonso, I can see that you're there if you wish to come forward. And now, if you want to take one of those seats, and Shigeki, if you don't mind, do come forward. And those seats don't look super comfortable, but and also yes. So I'm not sure if we have. I will also place myself here. I'm not sure if we have maybe the opportunity to hear now from Rika.
I just sent the link to her, and I don't know if it's a unique link or it can be replicated.
Mhm.
Thank you.
It is technically
Unfortunately,
unique, but she should be able to join nevertheless. One of our colleagues also
yeah.
sent her an invitation link.
Oh,
So
perfect.
yes, she
Wonderful.
She'll
should be
be
joining.
she'll be there next week. Unfortunately, she's in Europe for other events, but um, she's also sharing a mutual a context with NTT as well. Okay.
Okay. Yes, I
Joining
believe we
for
have her inside the
So,
room now.
So perhaps what we can suggest to Rika is that if she is able to join, we would love her to virtually join our panel. But we will press on, given what.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes.
Hi. Can you
Hi,
hear me
Rika.
okay?
Thanks for joining. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so ohayo or konnichiwa minasan. Nice to see everyone. Trying to get on camera here, but at least you can hear my audio. I'll just be super quick. Pavlina invited me to join this. Of course, I jumped at the opportunity. I've known Pavlina for over a decade. I lived in Silicon Valley for 16 years, worked for companies like Accenture, NVIDIA, and others. And actually, I'm at NTT now, so I know Kaya-san will be joining all of you here. Formerly within NTT Data, now I work within NTT Holdings. I'm in Japan right now every month, so if there's an opportunity to connect with some people in Japan the next time I'm in town, I would love to do that. But I just want to underscore Pavlina's main points about key lessons and opportunity for the Bulgarian and for the Japanese startup community to collaborate. I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned, but a great community between Eastern European regions and communities and with Japan. I am good friends with our CEO of our Romania office, for example, who Kaya-san knows quite well. And I've been a big fan of the entrepreneurship and the brilliance of the Bulgarian community. And actually, I met Pavlina. She is my second Bulgarian dear friend. I have had Bulgarian best friends in New York for over 20 years, and I've been to Varna once and Burgas twice, and Sofia once as well to speak at a Fortune magazine event or Forbes magazine event. So I just want to thank everybody for putting this forum together, because I do think that this is the beginning of an incredible journey around the folks that are in the room virtually and in person in Tokyo. And like I said, I've been putting in the chat, please reach out to me. I'll be in Tokyo, would love to help foster the startup community and achieve some incredible outcomes and impacts around sustainability, economic development, and future prosperity across the different regions. So thank you very much. And I also just want to congratulate Pavlina on an incredible program with Bulgarian Innovation Hub and now Future Unicorns. And I look forward to meeting some of you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rika. Thank you.
Thank you, Rika. So we are now into our panel of investors, and here with us in Tokyo we have two, and that's Mitomo Shigeki-san, and he's with the Cool Japan Fund. We also have now Kitazawa with 8 Roads, and we also have online quite a number of people, and I will, in fact, start by asking those who are joining us online for this session to start by introducing themselves briefly. Perhaps starting with Kamen, who happens to share my first name. I think we need to unmute you, so maybe give us a second.
I believe everyone with the speaker role should be able to unmute themselves. If there is anybody who has among the speakers who has accidentally joined as an attendee, may I kindly request that you write in the chat so that I can promote you to presenter. Otherwise, everyone should have received their individual joining codes so as to avoid
Thank you,
any
Mike.
issues. Yes.
Thank you. So while you probably figure that out and help Cameron, would I be able to please hand over maybe to Dennis, if Dennis is able to introduce himself. I'm sorry,
Hello.
Cameron, for the delay. We will be back to you in a moment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you well.
Perfect.
We can hear you well.
So, hello everyone. Thanks to the organizers for this event and the invitation. I'm Denis Christov. I am working at the Fund of Funds in Bulgaria, which is a state-owned institution managing a part of the European money budget. We are managing through financial instruments. So we implement equity instruments, debt instruments, guarantee instruments. Roughly 30% of our assets under management go to the VCs. In the last couple of years, we were the anchor investor in 5 VC funds. And in the next few years, we are planning to invest more than 350 million euros into 7 to 9 VC funds. And I just want to step on the saying of the ambassador, what she mentioned, that based on the statistics from the funded companies in Bulgaria, in fact, out of the 3 out of 5 funded startups in Bulgaria were funded with the money from the fund of funds. So just a very brief last comment is that actually on the market, the main anchor investors are the fund of funds, so which I'm presenting today, and the European Investment Fund. And I think that the market is mature enough, and we are eager to further collaborate with our Japanese counterparts. And now I'm actually the head of the Business Analytics and Development Unit, and I will leave the floor to the other panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Angel, perhaps you can say a few words about yourself and where you are at.
Hi, everyone. Pleased to meet you all. My name is Angel Angelov. I'm a financial professional for the past 20 years and in venture capital for the past 15 years. My endeavor with Japan, for example, is that I have some encounters with the ecosystem there. Particularly 12, 13 years ago, I visited the country on a business trip, on a couple of business trips, actually, representing a US venture capital company, doing analysis on a few companies in the tech ecosystem there, particularly in biotechnology and microchips and electronics. And I had the opportunity to meet some of the local representatives of startups and venture capital. I was very surprised and glad to see the developed ecosystem over there, to see the high level of technology advancement, and the high level of readiness for funding of the companies that I met. My role after that changed into more of a direct investor in companies and advisor, acceleration organizer. Since I've been particularly working on the pre-seed and seed stages of the Eastern European ecosystems, starting 2015, and starting 2019, we set up one of the local venture capital companies called Innovation Capital, which I'm currently part of. I'm managing partner there. And we have been, in the past 6 years, one of the most active funds in terms of deal flow in Europe, and particularly the most active one in Southeast Europe, with close to 200 companies in the portfolio. Investment tickets between 25,000 and 1 million, particularly investing in pre-seed and seed stages, sector agnostic, also running, as I mentioned before, an acceleration component for our companies and for other companies in the ecosystem. Total funds under management currently are 20 million, around 20 million. And we're currently in our post-investment period, raising our next fund.
Thank you very much. Kamen, are you able to be heard, do you think?
Let us test that out and we'll see. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Excellent. Firstly, it's great to be here. Thank you very much, Kamen, for the invitation. It's strangely enough, I don't get to attend many events where another person is named Kamen, not to mention to be on the same panel together. So I cherish this opportunity, not just the very important mission and the very important topic that we're going to be discussing today. So Kamen, thank you very much for the invitation, and everyone, pleasure to be here and to connect with you. Hopefully this will be the beginning of many other initiatives that we can do together. And to Kamen and the organizers, I hope this is the beginning of a great new initiative that will be repeated many years to come and that will bring many opportunities for our ecosystems. My name is Kamen Bonkowski, and I am an early stage venture capital investor. Currently, I'm part of an emerging fund called Planet 9 Ventures, where myself and my other 3 partners are targeting pre-seed and seed companies in Bulgaria and Southeastern Europe. Hopefully, we'll be able to complete our fundraise within this year, and will be operational by, let's say, the end of the year, Q4 2025, where our target fund size is going to be between 35 and 40 million euro. And we will aim to leverage all of our acceleration and pre-seed experience backed through Startup Wise Guys, Flat 6 Labs in Europe, the US, the Middle East, where myself and my partners have experience in. And we will try to bridge gaps and bridges between ecosystems where initiatives like this one will be extremely important, that we'll try to leverage to the best of our abilities. Previously, I was a partner in Vitro Venture Partners, which is an early stage venture capital fund based in, again, Sofia, Bulgaria, part of the cohort of funds together with Angel in Innovation Capital, under the anchor investment by our fund of funds, which Dennis is a representative of, and we are extremely lucky to have this organization to be able to fuel this investment gap within our country. Not many countries have this successful fund of funds initiatives, and we're very happy to have that. And with Vitasha, we invested in around 120 companies, deployed 27 million, close to 27 million, where we were able to leverage that with additional co-investments of about the same size. So total impact will be about 50 million euro, and upticks have been happening. And throughout our experience with Vitusha and throughout my previous experience, we've seen around 3,000 startups from the Bulgarian ecosystem, which has been extremely interesting. And we've been very fortunate to witness the birth of a lot of companies in our ecosystem. And hopefully we'll be able to share some experience here that will be beneficial to the organization and to bridging this initiative forward. So thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm not sure if, yes, we do have Ivan. Ivan, would you like to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Kamen, for the opportunity, and great to be in such a distinguished company with a topic that has to do with one of my favorite countries in the world, both on a personal level and also from a business perspective. I'm currently an investor in early stage companies across the globe, after stints in investment banking and also as an operator across Africa. As luck would have it, a couple of our companies have actually had great experience finding partners in Japan. So I look forward to discussing both the investment and the strategic context of this collaboration.
Wonderful. And I think we should give an opportunity also to those who are here with us in the room to introduce themselves. Hopefully that second microphone is working. So Shigeki-san.
This is Shigeki Mitomo from Cool Japan Fund. It's a private public fund, and seconded by the Ministry of Finance. And I start working from 1995. In 1999, I go to Cornell, Johnson Graduate School of Management, long ago. But world has changed dramatically. Of course, our policy strategies changes a lot. But nowadays, as ambassadors and Bulgarian friends said, world has changed, and Japan also changes gradually, building up the startup system and everything. And as ambassador said, it's a very good timing this year. Was Expo 2025 there, and Japanese government changes a lot step by step, and by country bilaterally we can promote our seeds, those startup. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mitomo-san, and hi everyone. Delighted to be here. My name is Neo Kitazawa. I'm a venture partner at a fund called 8 Rows, and it's a part of a global network of 8 Rows Ventures. And so we have a sister and brother funds in across the world. So we have one in Europe, we have one in China, and we also have a sister fund in the US called F Prime. We basically focus on technology startups that are more or less related to Japan, whether that's global or Japan specific. We've already raised 3 funds that accumulate to about 700 million US and asset under management. And I myself had started out my career as a lawyer. I wasn't as good as Kamen, so I chose not to pursue my career as a lawyer. I went to do investment banking for about 6 years, and then had an opportunity to co-found a fintech startup in Japan. That's when my first encounter with the startup businesses, and I am so having fun afterwards. So I spent 4 years as a CEO at this firm. I was also a founding board member of a fintech association Japan industry organization specializing in fintech industry. And then I got so fascinated with crypto, and so I became one of the early employees of Coinbase, which is a crypto company that's now listed in NASDAQ. I was a country director of Japan for about 5 years until we unfortunately had to step back from Japan operation a couple of years ago. So that's when I joined 8 Rows Ventures. That's about it for myself. Thanks.
Sorry, we'll have to pass around one microphone. Just very briefly for those who might have joined after the initial introduction, I'm Kamen Shoilev, and those of you online, I'm Kamen Shoilev. I'm a partner at New Balkans Law Office, and I will be helping moderate this panel. And also helping me will be Bonso. I'll hand over to briefly introduce himself. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bonso Morimoto. I am a partner attorney at Nishimura Asahi. I'm a Japanese lawyer, not a venture capitalist. So let's talk between attractive wishes. Yeah. I am just an organizer during this section.
Thank you. I think we may. Do we have anyone else joining us online of the panelists? I believe we may have one last minute change. So somebody who was able to join previously isn't able to join us. Have they been able to rejoin? No. The dynamic world of VC is such that one has to deal with last minute change. But perhaps we can start by talking a little bit about what each of the panelists sees as the trends that are shaping the technology sectors in Central and Eastern Europe on the one hand, and in Japan as they see them. And feel free to talk about that market, that geography that you don't, that you're not from, but you may have observations of, or indeed to draw other comparisons. But perhaps we can start with now.
Cool. So I could probably touch on the trends in Japan, I guess. So I think historically Japan has always been fascinated by the advancement of the technology. So anything that got to do with something tech was the word. So you've got the educational tech, you've got the real estate tech, and you've got the fintech and what have you. So we had that moment until I think, well, more or less simultaneously, the SaaS business had really taken off, and that was quite of the thing. And I think it's still continuing because the government's really sort of pressing hard for so-called DX, the digital transformation, whereby the incumbents and the good old company are actually need to sort of reinvent and transform themselves to embrace the technology. So you've got the likes of these companies who really cater for these the incumbents to really sort of change their digital attitudes. So that was that. But I think momentarily we are really looking into the AI space. I mean, ever since the transformer notion had came out, and we've seen a lot of disruptive movements in leveraging the advancement of the LLMs and AIs and what have you. But we haven't really come across the real deal. So that's actually my focal point at this point, along with Web3, I guess, which is something that Japanese government's really pushing hard to promote, and they've been doing that during the so-called crypto winter as well. And now that new Trump administration had sort of started to embrace crypto in the U.S., we do see some of this. I would say the trend and the momentum from that industry as well. So I guess two things, AI and Web3 personally are some of the things that that I keep in close eye on.
Thank you. Now, that's actually interesting. As today, the article that I remember catching my eye in the Financial Times concerned a company with a Bulgarian founder, which, however, is based in the US, Robinhood. I'm not sure if people realize, but one of the founders, Vlad Tenev, I believe, is of Bulgarian origin, and it's a company that has grown, I think, entirely in the US. So, except for the connection that the founder has to Bulgaria, maybe there isn't much. Although maybe some of the other panelists will have an idea about the origins of the company, which has achieved quite a lot of growth. So over to those joining us virtually. Perhaps, Carmen, do you have any observations on what are the biggest trends in Central and Eastern Europe from your perspective?
Absolutely, thank you, Carmen. Now, usually when we talk about the biggest trends of Central and Eastern Europe, it's a bit buzzy. I mean, it is a bit of a buzz term, but we definitely could identify some. And I'll try to focus more on Southern and Eastern Europe, but Southeastern Europe has been a specific geography which generally has outpaced most other European subregions in terms of innovation, startup, and technology growth for the past 5-6 years. And out of South and Eastern Europe, Bulgaria has stood out as one of the even most vibrant economies, which we have been very fortunate to hopefully contribute with, and especially we have a contributor here from the Fund of Funds in the face of Dennis, who can share their observations because they have a very interesting aggregate view of what's happening. But you can definitely see that Southeastern Europe and Central and Eastern Europe has developed a very branched out local ecosystem approach where funds like ours, Vitria Venture Partners, my previous fund, funds like Innovation Capital, many local funds which are focused on the pre-seed and seed, developing the first layer of financial infrastructure, so to speak, for the earlier stages of development of the startups and the innovation that's happening there, then bridging the next gap of the later stage funding with later stage funds, let's say Western from our geographies and within the US. And we see many successful initiatives of that, the future unicorns and Pavlina being a great example of that. But basically, we've seen a lot of growth in the local ecosystems and then a lot of partnering up between the local ecosystems and their neighboring countries in terms of deal flow and deal exchange. Because at some point, when we go through the deal flow within our own regions and our own countries, it makes sense for us to exchange that deal flow with our partners and the partners who are investing in the later stages of development of the companies where we ourselves cannot. So in a way, we become, our specialty as venture capital investors is first selecting the greatest and the most interesting new coming startups and early stage startups that come from our own geographies and from our own ecosystems, and then serving a role as a bridge between our ecosystems and, let's say, the later stage participants of funding, which we generally tend to lack in Bulgaria and in our part of the world. And that also comes hand in hand with soft landing opportunities. So in the past 5-6 years, we see a lot of interconnectedness between the ecosystems. We see a lot of capital being deployed in Bulgaria, Southeastern Europe, just between 2019 and 2023. It's about 4 billion being deployed just in SEE. And out of that, 1 billion has been in Bulgaria. So Bulgaria definitely outpacing many of its neighbors, and South and Eastern Europe definitely outpacing in terms of growth most other European regions. And interestingly, there's a new wave of capital that's going to be deployed in Bulgaria in the next 5-6 years. So we expect between 600 million euro between 2025 and 2030, mostly coming and mostly backed by public funding and public institutions in the face of the Fund of Funds and the European Investment Fund. And that in itself also attracts a lot of private capital. And with the next generation, let's say our ecosystems, you could say, began in 2011, 2012 in terms of financing infrastructure with the first Jeremy funds and the first, let's say, institutionalized attempts of venture capital. And we were sort of part of the second wave, which became emerging in 2018, 2019. And now there's a third wave of capital that is going to be deployed, which brings itself a larger proportion of private capital. Now, a experience of a few waves and a few funds already with both platform processes, meaning processes to support the startups and to help them grow, and in terms of more established connections to other ecosystems. So the trend is upward, hopefully. We see a lot of opportunity in bridging these gaps, and in the next incoming wave of funding and the next incoming wave of startups. We experienced right now, in 2020, we saw our first unicorn in Bulgaria, and well, technically our first unicorn right now, the official unicorn, our only official unicorn is called Payhawk, but we have 3 or 4 more companies which are unofficially termed unicorns, and we have a few interesting companies that are going to be hopefully branded the unicorn status, will get their horn in the next year potentially, like Quantive, Dronamics is a great example, Lucid Link, Shelly Group. I mean, we have a lot of interesting companies to look out for. So definitely we see a lot of growth in terms of valuations, a lot of growth in terms of the entire enterprise value of the ecosystem. And again, I would love to hear the oversights of the other participants. I don't want to take too much of the time.
This was very very useful as an overview. So you certainly didn't take our time. You gave us yours, but I wonder whether some of the others who've joined us virtually want to chip in on this point. Do you have other points you think are points of emphasis about the Central and Eastern European or the specific Bulgarian scene in VC investment and early stage investment? Angel, would you like to comment? You've seen a flow of a very sort of large number of pre-seed and seed-sized deals over the years. What kind of trends did you see then, and where do you expect the pre-seed part of the market to go next?
Yeah, I'd like also to double down on what Kamen Bankovsky said before, that the ecosystem is quite young. The VC and entrepreneurship startup ecosystem in Bulgaria is quite young. That is a common feature for most European VC ecosystems, aside from UK, perhaps Germany and France, in some way. Most European countries basically started taking a note into startups, into more risky businesses at a very early stage, no more than 20 years ago. As previously mentioned, our first funds was set up somewhere in the mid 2000s, and the wave of venture capital pre-seeds, particular pre-seed and seeds from the grassroots of the startup space, initiated in 2011 and 12, when 4 funds were set up to invest in early stage companies. So we have to have that perspective and context when we analyze the Bulgarian ecosystem. So just to fast forward to where my particular experience comes in handy, since I've been more active in the Bulgarian ecosystem just over the past 7-8 years, more actively. Before that, as I mentioned, in Asia and in the US. So I could probably relate a little bit on the development here as well with that perspective. So over the past 5-6 years, with the second wave of the funding companies, we currently have around 20 VCs. Just to give us some just to put some color on what Ambassador said before, we have about 20 active investors in Bulgaria. Which I guess is a very good number, and per capita investment is also very high, with close to 500 startups funded over the past 5 years. Really densely and high amount of investment per capita, and total number of startups funded. But at the very early stages. What is a common feature of the Bulgarian ecosystem is that we have been quite active on the local market, but not very much open to cross-border investments. Something that has been in the change for the past 2-3 years, with a few funds, a few local funds, a few let's say neighboring funds from Greece, from Romania, even from Turkey, taking a look at the more cross-border opportunities. And where I see the big potential here is to create a bigger ecosystem, because we're just 7 million people around even less than 7 million people as a population, so quite a small market. But other neighboring countries are not that much bigger. And so we, as Southeast European and more like an Eastern European echelon of the emerging startup ecosystems, I believe that we have a better opportunities connecting and doing cross-border investments, so that investors from the US, investors from Asia, Far East, including Japan, could put us on the map of their trips, of their business trips, and take a deeper look into great opportunities that are hidden here. Hidden gems are initially the focus of some investors that have been interested to take a crack and see what's available for them. Some of the features here are and the opportunities lie with the attractive valuations still. Perhaps if you compare an Eastern European or a Bulgarian company to a Silicon Valley company, the seed stage valuation will differ in between 5 and 10x. So with not that much lesser quality in terms of potential, at least in the tech stack, at least in the very product market fit stage, in the very early stages. Now the challenges come when it comes to go to market and expansion. Of course, our markets are not big enough to make a dent in the development of these companies. Startup companies need to grow very fast, so taking up international markets is a necessity for them. And maybe I should also mention a few sectors that Bulgarian and Southeast European companies are thriving and could be an interesting overview for Japanese investors to take a look. Those would be sectors such as enterprise software, very, very successful ones. Also, some companies were mentioned by Kamen before. Fintech, blockchain, and AI is the new trend for local entrepreneurs to start developing businesses at. We have some very good opportunities to take a look into gaming companies, gaming studios, logistics companies, e-commerce, and to my surprise, or maybe to be just a surprise of our guests here, is that we have some history with electronics and hardware companies, which I believe will be the next wave of the AI revolution. And we have some very good engineers here, very talented pool of people, and contrary to the common perception is that we're risk averse, but if you take a look into some polls that have been created over the past few years, people under 30, let's say that the Gen Z generation, we have seen that they're more interested to, or willing to, let's say, start their own businesses. That doesn't mean that they will create many tech super scalable businesses, but out of the, let's say, 100 that start next month, maybe we're going to have 5 to 10 that are quite potentially scalable and could be fundable businesses. So I remain positive with regards to the potential of the local ecosystem that is intertwined with the other Southeast European ecosystems, and maybe Japanese investors should consider this region as one whole, not only Bulgaria as a small representative.
Thank you, Angel. So that takes us, I think, to an interesting point, which is about the decision to perhaps leave the home country of a startup, to leave Bulgaria or respectively Japan, and to look for expansion in a much bigger or somehow otherwise more value-adding market. And I wonder whether, Ivan, you have any comments on that. You have seen over the years, I'm sure, a number of examples of that happening well. We'll probably need a second to have you.
I was saying, could you repeat the question? There was some interference. I've been having some connection issues.
Yes, sorry. The question was about the decision to leave perhaps the market where a team has formed itself, let's say Bulgaria, and go to a bigger market or a market where the team would see or potentially see a lot more value added. So whether that's US or indeed Asia or elsewhere. Do you have any comments on good examples of that happening?
How much time do you have? It's a long, complicated subject.
Time you want.
No, I think it's really one of the things that we've been trying to crack since the formation of the ecosystem. Now almost 20 years ago, and although of course there have been many good developments, I think certainly there's a far larger investor pool, available capital from local investors than anyone anticipated 15 years ago. At the same time, when you look at the quote-unquote the track record, we have a couple of exits which are sub 1 billion, and as was said previously, only one unicorn, which also needs to be caveated by the fact that this is a theoretical unicorn. I mean, this is a value that's on paper. It's a few years old now. It yet remains to be seen how it's realized in terms of an exit or an IPO, and how a company that's been valued so highly and amicably can then sort of live up to the expectations. And I think a lot of this has to do with your question. I think probably it's a psychological thing to an extent. I think there needs to be a shift at some point, and maybe the shift is already happening as far as Bulgaria is concerned, that we need to graduate away from ecosystem building only and capital deployment mainly, and actually think about what happens then. What happens with the capital that's absorbed, and how is that capital steered operationally by the company who's had the pleasure to receive it. And I think sometimes we kind of fall prey to the notion that the entrepreneur knows best. We're investing in the entrepreneur, and then they will sort of see what happens, and they'll break things and maybe fail, and then we'll see what happens. Which again is a great mentality for ecosystem building, but as far as being scalable on a global level and competitive on a global level, I think it takes a little bit of a different set of ingredients, and that's why I think. I promise I'm almost done. That's why I think this forum is very useful, because I think we can really learn from each other's experiences, respectively, in Bulgaria and Japan. In Bulgaria, basically, our corporate culture and investment culture was put on a hold of many decades during communism. So we haven't had that long to develop, first of all, a booming corporate culture, and then in parallel with that, a booming investment culture. With Japan, it's very different. As far as corporate culture is concerned, obviously there's many books and works that have been written on that, and I think it's an example for the rest of the world to follow, including with some of the very earliest innovations. During the last century, while other countries were focused on brick and mortar industries, Japan was sort of looking into the future as far as their corporate sector was concerned. Obviously, the landscape now is a bit different, but what I'm meaning to say is we are just starting to build that up. Japan has had a heritage and a tradition in corporate culture. They're trying to build up their VC. So as far as our investment traction, let's say, is concerned, I do see similarities. But as far as the corporate aspect is concerned, I think we can really learn from Japan's great companies, and not just look to the West when we think about, oh, how do we sell our service, or how do we develop a business, or how do we do marketing?
Ivan, that's very interesting. I think it puts, I think, now on the spot, because maybe the question is whether corporate culture is limiting Japanese startup growth, or whether there are adaptations to that culture that are helping that process now. Do you have any comment on this?
And how much time do I have?
All the time you need.
I think that's a really sort of deep subject topic, right? And I think traditionally you're right that over these few decades, Japanese corporations had quite built their sort of robust corporate structure, whereby they're more good at keeping status quo versus being disruptive, which is quite irony because companies like Sony have been disrupted themselves for a number of times, but at this point in time, they seem to be quite of the large element. But at this point in time, I think we see some sort of trends of necessity, and which were driven by a few factors. So one, we have a decreasing population, so there needs to be somewhat a necessity in terms of really sort of leveraging technology and not doing everything by hand, and relying on the employees and disciplines and all that. So that's one. Government itself is really sort of pushing hard for some under some sort of slogans, like I've said, digital transformations or what have you. And I think people are starting to sort of realize that some of these small startups, their services are pretty good in vis-a-vis one of those trusted names and what have you. But that is a huge challenge. So I look back to my old days of robo-advisor service that I co-founded with my partners. You go around and ask people, telling them that our service is much better, superior in all sorts of ways, whether that's UX or whether that's just a fee, what have you. But people just trust the brand that they know. So there's that. But I think the silver line here is that large corporations really started to embrace the startups, because they started to realize, in my opinion, that they need that sort of disruptive or innovative mindset, which sometimes they just cannot nurture in-house, so that they look to these young startups. So I've seen a lot of collaborations between the large corporations and the startups nowadays, which seems to be somewhat one idea of a success pattern to these days. But it is still challenging. I mean, I don't see that many startups being flourishing in the space of fintech, for instance, just by the fact that the incumbents are really huge and humongous. So some of the companies are being acquired, as a matter of fact, which might be another way of exit. But I don't see any sort of small startups disrupting that industry at this point in time.
Thank you. That's very very interesting. I suppose it raises the question whether such Japanese companies are prepared to look for the innovative teams and innovative ideas overseas as well as domestically, and do they successfully already do so? Maybe in Central and Eastern Europe. Are you aware of any such examples?
Well, to the extent that I know of, I don't see that many. And I guess I think some of the folks have mentioned about the size of the country of Bulgaria, which was about sub 7 million people. Japan, on the other hand, I think they call it just too big enough we have 120 million people at this point in time, which is somewhat a good market to be profitable. But when it comes to a software business, you really need to figure out what the users want, and you really have to optimize for that local sort of market. The more you do it in one specific local market, i.e. Japan, I guess the more sort of less flexibility you have in terms of going abroad to be catering for other countries. So that's the dilemma. I think Pavlina mentioned, which was really sort of a great point, that she said that you need to really sort of think global at an early stage, and I really sort of resonate with that. But it's the dilemma, right? You really need to be profitable in order for you to get more funding, and you need to get it going. And the market that you face right in front of you is the Japanese market, which is really unique market as itself. It uses local language. It has different sort of cultural sort of expectations and whatnot. So that's one of the challenges and the dilemma that you see in terms of especially the software company locally to be successful globally.
Thank you. And do our virtual panelists have any thoughts on whether Bulgarian companies are good at spotting those opportunities early on, whether they do it sufficiently early, or whether they wait too long and become too used to their local markets? Maybe that's something Kamen or Angel or indeed Ivan have thoughts on.
Sure, I can jump in here, because it's here what the rest of the guys have to say, of course. But to be honest, what we've seen in the past 5-6 years is that international sales or having the international mindset is something that generally is lacking in especially first-time early stage founders. So there is, of course, the prevailing thought that when you're building there is a prevailing thought of testing out the local market before going internationally, which generally, I mean, everyone generally can be considered a flawed method to do building and to grow a company. And we've been trying to nurture this culture, and I think our ecosystem has really developed all of the aspects needed to sort of train that first-time founder to be able to have that international growth mindset. And we have many acceleration programs that are active. We have many co-working spaces, and again, financial infrastructure in the face of early stage funds that actually support this sort of early stage knowledge to go international early on. So if you're going to sell to Japanese companies, go sell to Japanese companies from day one. Don't test out the Bulgarian market and then going to sell in Japan, because the Bulgarian consumer or the Bulgarian company is very different in terms of mentality and in terms of sales cycles and processes from a Japanese company or Central European company even. So I think we have everything in place in order to shift that mindset, and that mindset has been changing. And we have a lot of successful examples of that, but unfortunately we are yet to be able to build the enterprise software companies. So right now, our region, even I would argue, Central and Eastern Europe, is not great at selling enterprise software. So we're still great at selling to small and medium companies in the mid-market, but we cannot build enterprise software. And most of our exits, all of the notable exits that we have had in the past 10 years, are companies that have sold to small and medium enterprises into the mid-market in Europe, to be honest, mostly. And our exits have ranged between 50 and 100 million euro. So smaller sized exits by companies who sell to the mid-market. So our next task will be to start building, let's say, more technically complicated companies, more deep technology companies. We have a great example of the Insight Institute, which is churning out new startups and new talent to build out those startups quite intensely for the past 4 or 5 years. a great example of we have a technological transfer fund that is being currently created by the fund of funds, which is going to support this, let's say, next layer of innovative startups that are going to be created from the universities and research and science institutions in Bulgaria. So the challenge will be to start selling that internationally early on. But I believe that we have all the necessary components of our environment to build that knowledge out early on.
Thank you. And
if you allow me comment, I would like
Yes.
just to I would like just to add a few comments on what Kamen just said. For me, the key takeaway from the today's discussion is to how to attract Japanese institutional investors and VCs for 401 investments. So from our point of view as a development institution, we are supporting the local VCs in Bulgaria. And an important next step for the ecosystem would be how to attract, for example, the Japanese VCs as 401 investors. Or what Pavlina said today, how to replicate the example of the Bulgarian Innovation Hub, so between Japan and Bulgaria, and what Kamen Bankovsky just said, so how to help those Bulgarian founders to think globally, to grow faster, and to sell their products and services abroad. So for me, this would be the main next steps that we need to tackle. And I just shared on the chat a very interesting report on the investments in Bulgaria and Southeast Europe. Everyone could jump into it. And I just wanted to conclude with a number that 10,000 companies in Bulgaria are growing by 25% in their turnover in the last couple of years. So all those companies, they need capital. Most of them, they are innovative, export oriented. So we are eager to support them locally, and then together with our colleagues from the fund managers, from the private sector, to help them grow also internationally. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for that. And actually, can I stay with you, Dennis, for maybe the next question? We were hoping to make some analogies today with yet another country apart from the US, Japan, and Bulgaria, which was Israel. The reason being that, of course, Israel is proud to be known as the startup nation, and it's truly amazing what they have achieved in terms of the density, not just of unicorns, but of capital invested. And of course, they did that starting with public funding in, I believe, the early 80s. But I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on how fast Bulgaria, or if you have observations on any other markets in the region, is transitioning to drawing in private capital to follow and to join the public LP seeding that is going on.
As my colleague said, today the market is predominantly funded through public funds, so from us, from the fund of funds, or from the European Investment Fund. But the trend is that there are initiatives on the local stock market exchange platform, or other private funds are raising capital. So I see what you mean with the Israeli example. We are trying to do this as best as we could in Bulgaria. So let's say for the last couple of years, more public money were invested into the ecosystem, and now we are building hopefully the blocks to raise more private funds. Generally speaking, for example, as a national development institution, we focus on Bulgarian companies, not so many on the regional aspect, let's say, to fund other EU companies or foreign companies. But the investment strategy, for example, of the European Investment Fund is to go on the next stage, to invest in regional funds. So in Bulgaria, we have also very well-established regional funds investing in not only in Bulgarian companies, but also in companies from other countries. So I think that we are developing step by step. And as the colleague said, we are maturing, we are improving, and based on data, Southeast Europe, as Kamen said, is one of the fastest growing regions, and Bulgaria is the regional leader in terms of investment value and deal account. So we really think that the fundamentals are placed, and what I'm seeing is that we need to position the whole region and to showcase that there are good investment opportunities here. So probably here I'm curious about the colleagues in Japan from the VCs, from the institutions. What do they need and what kind of format to showcase this investment opportunity? So to reach this gap.
Can I just add one thing?
Yep.
I don't know, Kamen as the moderator, maybe to focus.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, maybe just a very quick example. As I mentioned, a couple of our companies have been engaging in Japan. I think definitely attracting Japanese capital to Bulgaria or the region is going to be amazing. Obviously, there's a long road there. But I think apart from showcasing, it's also about finding some sort of reciprocal benefit. And I sort of echo again that I think the corporate path is quite a good one. Just to give the example of one of our companies who spent, they made several trips to Japan. They met many corporates, small, medium, large. And by establishing a partnership, a business development, sort of an early pilot adoption, or even a customer relationship with a Japanese company, that is now actually opening the doors to Japanese investments, whether it's from a corporate VC that's affiliated with these companies or from a VC itself. I think sort of having that sort of mutual benefit and mutual entanglement, I feel, at least in our example, goes a long way towards attracting capital. Because obviously the world is a big place and there's a lot of regions and a lot of countries where you can show strong macro, but when it comes to an island, essentially like Japan, I think I really feel like if we engage operationally, aside from just on a macro level, we're gonna do much better than that. That's my 2 cents here. And I would be curious to hear what the Japanese gentlemen and ladies think in the room.
By the way, I should also offer to anyone who's with us here in person, if you have any comments, to feel free to come forward and give us your views. But now, do you have any thoughts on this?
Absolutely. So you're right. Japanese corporations tend to be quite interested in what the Israelis are doing. And part of the reason is because it's they have the far advanced technology in terms of some of the things that they're doing, and at the same time, stuff that they're doing are quite adaptable to different nations, including Japan. So it's more like a plug and play offer that they could sort of provide. It's quite hard for the Japanese audiences, especially the investors, to really think through how one technology that's been offered to be sort of applied to the Japanese audience. They want to see the use case. So once they see the use case, it's like, oh, then that works in Japan. Might as well invest in them. So I think use case is quite important, and that use case ought to be proven by multinational regions, as opposed to just one region. So I think that's one thing that the companies from Israel are quite good at. But at the same time, Japanese investors, including myself, I guess, are quite risk averse to some extent, especially the corporate venture capital. They are quite risk averse. So they are more sort of comfortable investing in some of the companies who are being successful in larger nations like likes of the US or what have you. So again, the important aspect is to really showcase that there's a use case that's quite applicable to any nations, including Japan, and that sort of use case is proven in multi jurisdictions.
That makes a lot of sense. The probably final group of questions or question, at least for me and Bonzo, feel free to add any that you may have, relates to the openness maybe of Japanese teams to themselves relocate maybe to Europe, use seed funding overseas. Do startups here even consider that? And how well do they do if they go to the US or potentially to Europe when they do that?
That's quite interesting. So I have a friend of mine who actually founded a VC fund in Norwegian regions, and so and he was quite successful. So I think there's some precedence, and yeah, I mean, come to think of it, I think some of the folks who were born and raised here are quite comfortable of living abroad and have you really sort of making some footprints elsewhere. I haven't seen that many venture capital doing something globally at this point, and part of the reason is because the industry, I guess in Japan as well, is quite nascent and still, that they're more or less primarily focusing on the Japan regions. But again, this I think the VC was called Nordic Ninja or something like that. But there are some folks who are beginning to do stuff like that.
Interesting. And what about Bulgarian VCs? So are Bulgarian VCs comfortable, Bulgarian investors comfortable co-investing with international investors? I know the US investors have been making inroads, but are there, how does that collaboration tend to work?
Maybe I could jump in. Yeah, we're very much encouraging co-investment deal flow coming in or showing to international investors. What is curious is that most Bulgarian, Eastern European founders tend to look westward rather than eastwards, and we have that opportunity here now to establish a more formal bridge to the Far East. There are abundant funding opportunities there. The markets are quite big. If you combine, the entire Far East, not only Japan, but even Japan on its own is a big market to establish presence. We have seen just a handful of companies that are looking over to those markets just to set foot, but also not only to be present, but also to get funding from. I can give an example with a company that we're part of our portfolio. It's a robotics company in AI. They attracted funding in their Series A from the Japanese corporation, and actually state-owned, Japan Post, and now they're raising a second round of funding from other corporates in Japan. Their markets are also international, but funding, my understanding is that funding coming out of Japan comes hand in hand with market presence, and that's the best way to do it, I guess. So I would also focus not that much on making Eastern European markets attractive for Japanese investors, but also to promote Japan as a market for Bulgarian companies to soft land there and to establish some relationship with VCs, but also with market players, and potentially sell there as well. We've seen some companies going to Thailand, to South Korea, to Japan, but that's not the first thing that comes to their minds. So I would suggest that we can promote Japan as a market and as a funding opportunity destination for Bulgarian founders as well.
And Kamen, Ivan, do you have any thoughts on how on that question? How Bulgarian environment works for international investors, but also in the points just of collaboration and of operational joint ventures and operational success.
Sure. Well, I think Angel wrapped it up very nicely. And one of the critiques of VC generally has been that it's sort of a part of it is a packaging business. You're sort of investing in a company and then you're looking for a way to package it up to the next stage investor, because especially in our local ecosystems, we don't really have multi-stage funds that can support the company throughout its entire life cycle. So one of the core value add things that we can do is to basically firstly support the company in trying to achieve whatever and to pinpoint a road towards a future of that company that can be attractive enough for the follow-on investment and for the next investment, and then to facilitate the relationship with our partner funds in order for that company to be able to talk to these funds and to ultimately receive an investment from them. So in a way, we're sort of packaging up this company towards the next investor. And part of what comes with that is knowing what the other investors want and we are, let's say, fairly good at knowing what European and US investors want and are looking for. Part of our experience is that, and part of our partner network is that, mainly because of geographical approximation, meaning we're close to these markets, closer to these markets. And that's sort of been the culture of the times, that this is sort of your path. If you're growing as a company, you ultimately need to go to the US, or you ultimately need to expand towards, let's say, more developed, economically more developed markets in Europe. And Asia is not, as Angel said, is not the first place that comes to mind. And this can be a great opportunity for fund managers and for VCs in Southeastern Europe, and for Japanese investors as well, and vice versa, that bridging this gap, and this is again a VC's responsibility and can be a VC's value add, to open up the market and to open up a co-investment opportunity as well. Like soft landing is a great example, because I mean, not even talking about moving the entire company's operations there, but just the partnership with the local large companies and incumbents and the local startup ecosystem, and the standard operational stuff like legal, accounting, that sort of thing, which I consider sort of the technicalities of it. But the introduction of large corporates and the local startup ecosystem is something it's a huge opportunity for Bulgarian companies as a market entry towards Asia. And Japan by itself is a huge market. I mean, 120 million people. It's a huge market, and Japan has great corporations that can be either clients or partners or vendors, facilitating the growth of these companies. And with that, of course, comes the knowledge of what the local market can accommodate in terms of startup industries even, and which can be part of our responsibilities to sort of figure out what are Japanese investors looking for, and which of our companies are actually suitable to go and tackle the Japanese and Asian markets. And of course, that's a mutual relationship where Bulgaria can serve as a very interesting European entry market because of the existing tech talent, because of the existing infrastructure in terms of capital, and in terms of co-working spaces, in terms of technological talent. We have 80,000 people deployed in IT in Bulgaria, and again, 1,500 startups. So that ecosystem by itself can be an interesting gateway to Europe. So it's sort of us learning what the corresponding market wants, both soft landing market, meaning both as a market for the companies and in terms of investments. So learning what these and exchanging what our respective markets need and are looking for, and trying to sort of explore that on operational level, like we would do with our Western European partners, where we'll have calls regularly and exchange information of what startups are active in their portfolios, how can we collaborate, what deal flow can we exchange, and the same thing can happen with Japanese investors and with Japanese, sorry.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Kamen. Are there any final points that any of you wishes to make? I should also point out that we've been talking very, very intensely and I think informatively for the last almost, well, more than we had initially budgeted for, which is, I think, a good sign. But we should move on. But before we do so, I think it's probably a good point to make, to repeat, that we would like to convert this conversation today and this discussion into something that is ongoing and happens with some regularity throughout 2025. And hopefully we'll have more opportunities to raise interesting points and to learn from each other. Also, in terms of this panel, before thanking you, are there any questions from the room here, or any questions in the Q&A that perhaps can be read out if there are some? Anyone? Any questions to the panelists? Anyone from our online viewers?
Yes, hello, Kamen. So we have one question from Christian Vachev. So first of all, he extends his thanks to the panelists for their insights. And here are the questions. So, how receptive are Japanese companies to adopting AI software, particularly solutions offered by startups rather than established enterprises? Can you provide any advice on positioning AI startups in front of potential Japanese clients? So I believe this question would be towards Mr. Kitazawa.
I'm afraid Mr. Kitazawa has been carrying a very heavy burden today, but here he is.
Caveat being that I might not be, the full representative of the Japanese community or corporations here, but I was just throwing in my 2 cents. One, I think I touched on earlier, but it's short answer is yes. The Japanese corporations are quite, adaptive of just, accepting any sort of new advanced technologies, whether that's from larger corporations or startups or what have you. And I've seen many cases that they do that. One thing for sure is that you need to really sort of have a proven use case in prior. Most of the Japanese corporations would quite be hesitant to be the first penguin. So that's one thing. 2, you might want to find some local partner who could really translate and make sure that the corporations are being educated to really implement and get the full use of that technology. So I guess those are 2 things. And in terms of this intermediary, you could either find some individuals or even send out some of your personnel over here, or sometimes you could collaborate with a larger corporation who could really be the distributor. So it's still not happening, but you've probably seen the news about the Project Stargate, whereby Son-san of the SoftBank is collaborating with OpenAI and have you. Son-san simultaneously actually came over to Japan. Well, he lives in Japan, and he announced that he will be promoting that AI technology to the Japanese industry. So that's another example of distributor, i.e., the intermediary.
Thank you, Noel. So, any final points from our very kind and very also patient with their time and generous with their time, Kamen, Dennis, or Angel, or Ivan? If not, then I should like to thank you again for this panel. This was very informative. I will very quickly restructure the rest of the evening because of, I think, the importance of hearing the investment perspective and the perspective of operators, which we have done. We at NBLO had prepared a presentation on the Bulgarian environment in terms of law and regulation. It would have been brief in any event. We wouldn't have thought that that was the most important thing to share for this evening. If there are Japanese investors or Japanese companies that are looking for the advantages of Bulgaria, then I would highlight several very quickly before I hand over, though, to Bonzo to also tell us a brief version of his presentation on the Japanese environment. So I would highlight the fact that Bulgaria has what you would expect in terms of corporate structures that one can use. So there are companies which offer you limited liability that are very, very low cost to set up. Secondly, it has a very low by onshore European standards corporate income tax of just 10%, and that has been stably so for more than 10 years now. And that provides that lowers costs even as maybe other cost factors are still rising, but nevertheless perhaps not as expensive operationally in Bulgaria. And then in terms of the rule of law and in terms of the environment for doing business, it is what it is. It is a civilian system of law similar to Japan. So if you are used to the Japanese environment, you will probably find it quite familiar as well. And there is the adoption of foreign legal systems and using, for example, common law English or Californian in your documentation is not at all unusual. So having said that, we are available if anyone has any particular legal or regulatory question. But I will also hand over to Bonzo now for a brief summary of the Japanese environment before we finally move on to NTT's presentation. And then we close off the formal part of the evening and have a session of networking in Tokyo, and then meet again in the future.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, again, my name is Bonzo Morimoto, partner attorney at Nishimura Asahi. Today, I briefly talk about the practical tips for Japanese investors to invest in overseas startups. My presentation today is a very simple one, so it takes less than maybe 5 minutes. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, that is my introduction page. So if you have any question, please freely contact me via email address, the right side of my photograph. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, I think there are major differences between domestic startup investment cases and overseas deals. Yeah, first, of course, Japanese investor should use English in drafting the agreements and negotiation. So Japanese investors should build up English proficient team up internally and also advisors, outside advisors. And then the next point is that considering the overseas startup investment, Japanese investor also consider the application of the foreign laws and regulations. In such cases, we may need to collaborate with local advisors in order to analyze of foreign regulations and conduct due diligence and the like. That is major differences. Yes, let's move on to next slide, please. Thank you. And in my experience as a legal advisor, I understand that overseas startup investment cases could be divided into three types of investment as a legal perspective. Type 1 is sole investment. It's a case in which Japanese investors independently, without other investors, invest in the startup in order to acquire a significant portion of stake. In this case, it's often conducted on strategic viewpoint, not a pure investment purpose. In addition, in such cases, Japanese investors become a major investor of the overseas startup. So we need to practically consider the retention plans to sustain the important employees in the overseas startups. Other category is somewhat familiar to everyone, one of which is cases where the Japanese investor become lead investors in the fundraising round. And another of which is the case where Japanese investor involved as follow investors in the fundraising round. Yes, let's move on to next slide. Okay. Next topic is that choice of investment schemes. As you know, the most common investment scheme is preferred stock scheme compared to other schemes. This is because preferred stock with certain financially preferential rights can result in a higher price per share compared to common stock. That is major reason why preferred stock scheme is more common. Alternatively, other schemes are, safe, SAFE, and convertible bonds, especially for the early stage investment. In such cases where we consider to embrace safe or convertible bonds, we need to determine the amount of variation cap and or discount rate and triggering event. That is the event to happen the conversion of the safe or convertible bonds to preferred stock or common stock of the startups. Let's move on to final slide, please. Yes, final slide states the key provision of the investment agreement and shareholder agreement. Regarding the investment agreement, one of the practical tips is adjusting timing of investment payment. This is because cross-border remittance takes several business days, so we should adjust the timing of the investment payment under the investment agreement practically. Regarding the shareholders agreement in general, main topics are arrangement of corporate governance and decision-making process, and also exit strategy, that is treatment of handling the shareholders transfer of the startup companies. Yes, that's all. I hope this presentation has been helpful to everyone. If you have any question regarding the practical viewpoint, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your time.
Hi, everyone. So one more to go before networking. Please hang. Okay. My name is Kaya, Chief Digital Asset Officer, Entity Data Inc. I'm very excited to be here, and also I'm very impressed with the panel discussion. So thank you very much for the panelists. And also finally, organizers and supporters. Thank you very much for your arrangement. And this is a wonderful event. Thank you. Okay, let me talk about Society 5.0. Have you ever heard of Society 5.0? Please raise your hand. Society 5.0? No? Smart City? Both of you. Thank you very much. So how about the Smart City? Most of you. Okay. And what I would like to say, the key message is Society 5.0 is a very important for us to accelerate collaboration among startups. That is especially Bulgaria and Japan. That is a glue between the two countries. Anyway, let me start with my presentation and make it short. Next page, please. A little bit about the NTT group, who we are, and the NTT data as well. NTT group started originally from an incumbent telecom carrier in Japan. NTT East and West provide local fixed service, telecom service. NTT Docomo provide mobile services. NTT data that Shima-san and me is coming from provide IT services. And we are IT service provider. Next page, please. NTT data covers more than 50 countries, especially in Europe. 50,000 colleagues, members are working in Europe. That is a huge presence we have. Next page, please. Thank you. When we focus on the Central and the Eastern Europe, we have a strong team there. We cover end-to-end IT service portfolio, start from SAP, cloud, and cyber security. As Ambassador mentioned, we have 2 offices in Bulgaria, 2 big offices in Romania, and 1 office in Serbia. So we have been doing business for more than 25 years with 1,800 professionals. So that is our strength, local presence for IT services. Next page, please. Now, it's a topic I would like to emphasize on. Society 5.0, originally proposed by Japanese government, the society that is sustainable, resilient, safety, security, all buzzword is included in that. Important thing is Society 5.0 is human-centric society, where economic development and tackling social issues are compatible. That is a very important message from the government of Japan. To do so, they recommend the virtual and physical integration by using digital IT. That's why we are pretty much interested in to be involved in. Next page, please. Thank you. Simply saying, virtual physical space will be integrated by using digital IT. How can we do? By using IoT, gathering the lots of information to the platform to analyze it by using AI and the metaverse. That is a key concept of virtual physical integration. Please just remember two components, digital experience and the data trust is a key to realize this concept. Digital experience and the data trust. Please remember these two words. That is a takeaway from this presentation. Next page. To do so, NTT Group proposed the collaboration model, so-called B2B2X. Outcome is the most important thing to create virtual physical convergence. To do so, co-creation is a key for success. That is a co-creation among startups, among enterprise. That is the only way for us to build up Society 5.0. NTT Group and NTT Data is happy to join in the ecosystem to realize Society 5.0. The bridge to the citizens and the enterprise would be a digital experience and the data trust. These two components will be a bridge to create the outcome for citizens and the enterprise, those who are doing the business in the city. Based on my experience, I have been in this field for a long time. So this is a, how can I say, what I learned from the actual business for smart city and the Society 5.0. Okay, next page, please. Okay, I'm very happy to share with you a tangible, specific example of what we are doing in Central Eastern Europe. So this is an example in the Romania, city of Cluj. They really want to realize Society 5.0. Start from automated government services. That is the e-government services. To do so, we jointly identify two important components. One is a digital experience, so-called Cluj ID, city ID. Personal identification is required together with digital wallet. That is the first thing. Second one is a data trust. All privacy information should be protected appropriately when they set up the government services, automated e-government services. That's after the long discussion with the city of Cluj, we identify these two components. It's a basement for the e-government service of the city of Cluj. Next page, please. Yes, and again, data trust is a basement. That simply say security for the privacy and the data. So to do so, we jointly developed the secured platform together with the city of Cluj. So today we have a Shimamura-san. Shimamura-san have been leading the development of city ID and the SPIP, so-called security, privacy, integrity, protection platform. Please raise your hand. Say hello to us. Thank you. Anyway, the reason why I want to refer this one is these kind of platform need a local collaboration with startups and enterprise. We cannot do it by ourselves. Always close collaboration with enterprise is needed because technology is day by day evolving. We can't catch up the speed of the technology evolution. Only way to build this kind of platform is a collaboration, local collaboration with startups and the enterprise. Next page. So we are coming to the last slide. Okay. Based on the collaboration with the city of Cluj, we successfully demonstrate our applications, that is so-called voting application, during the Eurocity Forum last year. And this is a kind of achievement, joint achievement, together with the local ecosystem. Next page, please. Okay, this is the last slide. Again, summary, what we are doing right now in the Central and Eastern Europe. Again, please keep in mind, outcome is the first thing you need to think. That is a key component for the ecosystem building and the local collaboration with startups. Please be focused on the outcome. For us to create the outcome, we need to build up the ecosystem, so-called B2B2X. City, municipality, the center, we need to set up the appropriate bridge, this so-called digital experience and the data trust. Okay, these kind of strategy entity group we have been running through the actual tangible project in the Central and Eastern Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I know we're running a bit late, so I'll be very quick. Thank you all, first of all, for joining us. I hope that you've gained insights and you have now, you can go home and consider all of the things that you've learned. I would like to thank all of our panelists here, all of our panelists online. Specifically, I would like to express how grateful we are for the support of the ambassador. Perhaps we've arrived to one fundamental truth, that innovation transcends border, and it is essential for ecosystems to communicate, to collaborate, not just companies. So thank you again all. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you all for joining our Microsoft Teams online event, as well as whoever has been up on LinkedIn. We're very thankful for your presence joining us today. So we did notice that there were some unanswered questions, which sadly we won't be able to have addressed during the remainder of the event, but we will be sure to have those written down, and we'll try to provide you with an answer later after we finish with the remainder of the logistics. Thank you very much for joining our event, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.